Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope that title caught your attention. This is a topic I've been wanting to discuss, and it's not clickbait. I actually saw another channel by the name of Lando Clips. He's been doing some faith based commentaries with the gameplay in the background, and it's been something I've been considering doing for a while. So I figured this would be a good first topic, but it is true. I'm 25 years old, virgin, and basically the reason behind that is that I'm ugly. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Not what I'm just playing. I became a Christian sophomore, junior year of high school, and it's a conscious decision that I had to make at one point about whether or not I was going to take it seriously. So actually, when I first found out that a Christian belief was that sex outside of marriage was wrong, I remember being 14 or something and reading that or hearing that. I remember praying like, God, I physically can't do that. I want to follow you, but it's going to happen at some point. Just because, your 14-year-old brain, you think it's inevitable. And I remember praying that prayer and kind of left it at that. Like I'm sorry, but it's going to happen at some point. I kind of folded my hand. I was like, it is what it is. But then over time, you spend time in the Word, you spend time actually trying to follow Jesus, and then suddenly, without even realizing it, your desires and your passions, they change, and then over time it became very reasonable to me that God would ask us to not have sex outside of marriage. It started to make sense. It started to click. Eventually I was just walking in it, and you think when you're a teenager that it's some sort of punishment, but it's really not. And one thing I wanted to address in this is that there's this some sort of stigma with waiting until marriage, and honestly I don't get it. Making a conscious decision to do that is not embarrassing. That's why I'm on the internet talking about it. I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. It would be a different story if you were, I don't know, a guy in your basement swiping all day on dating apps, trying so hard, to get some action, or if you're someone who makes it part of their personality to impress their friends with the amount of women they sleep with, and that's something you're always trying to put on this facade. And if you just don't engage in that, it's really not embarrassing to say, yeah, I'm going to wait till marriage. And I think obviously it's better for all parties involved if you do wait. And then people want to say, what about on your wedding night? All I can say to that is I'm going to give it my all, man. It's going to be a good 30 seconds, maybe after a year or two, bump that up to 45 seconds. And I'm going to do my best, bro. So as for whether or not she will also be a virgin like me, that's kind of out of my control. Obviously, it would be nice if we were on the same page with that, but if not, we'll see what happens. So if anyone's in a similar boat, they're trying to follow Jesus and this is something they're hung up on, you hit a certain age where it's like, this is what I'm doing. I'm following Jesus. I'm waiting till marriage, and embarrassment and peer pressure are not a thing anymore. Maybe you're in high school and you're junior, senior high school, all your friends are talking about it and they're like, yo, bro, so what you been getting into? Just tell them you're waiting till marriage. And if they're not rocking with it, that's really on them. You honestly can't care. And maybe in a couple years it might click for them. They might get it. But if they're the type to make fun of you for that, then they gotta grow up at the end of the day. And then once you're out of high school, I don't know anyone who would make fun of you for making that conscious decision. The crackhead down the street, he's probably not a virgin. I don't see, does that like add to his aura? Is he like a cool guy because he's not a virgin? At the end of the day, it's not a personality trait where, having bodies is, when you're an adult, it's not something people care about. And if they do, then mentally they're still not out of puberty. So I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. It does get very difficult at times. Obviously, we are human. I am a man with desires, but the only time I end up in tough situations where it could be compromised is when I'm talking to women I shouldn't be talking to. They're not women I would actually want to date or marry eventually. I will say another advantage I have in terms of waiting is not just obviously the number one reason is that Jesus tells us it's between a man and a woman in marriage, but also I'm just lazy. Uh, and when if it's ever been offered to me, or, a conversation gets out of control. Well, one, Jesus doesn't want me to do it, and two, I'd have to get up and go do that. And then I think we also have to recognize the fact that hooking up with a stranger is pretty insane when you think about it. We don't know their history, their hygiene, what they do, who they've been with, and then doing that very intimate and vulnerable act with them without any foreknowledge is actually wild. And then let's say, obviously, the other circumstances you're with a long time girlfriend and, obviously you have strong feelings for each other. That is a little bit different situation. I would say for guys in that situation where things are getting a little steamy, you got to set the boundaries way before situation arises. Because if you wait until you're watching a movie all snuggled up, it's gonna be like, um, actually, I don't think we should. Like, we know how the human mind works, how hormones work. We gotta before you even start dating, and obviously, if you've already started, then just sooner is better than later. But say, look, I'm waiting till marriage. If you're not on board with that, that's cool. You do you, but we can't do this. We're not gonna wait until something happens, and then I got to be like, well, actually, I shouldn't have done. Like, just do. You got to do it first. You got to set the boundary first. And I know that's really hard because let's say you found someone very attractive and you really want it to work, and you don't want to jeopardize it, but there will be a crossroad at some point, and you're either gonna have to choose to stay with them and commit these sins and defy God, or you can defy that person now and save yourself the headache. And I know it's tough because you think this person is so great and they're so pretty, but there's just this one thing you don't see eye to eye on. Honestly, save yourself the headache, the heartache. And if you tell them you're waiting till marriage and they're not cool with that, then you have to be okay with letting that person go because it'll promise you it will save you a lot of pain, and God can absolutely bring you someone that is also willing to wait. Not just willing, but that is their heart's desire. Not like you have to twist their arm to get them to wait. But it is very possible. And I know, especially if you're in like high school hearing this, you're like, dude, this is crazy. But it's really not. Like, it's not a crazy concept waiting till marriage. I thought it was some crazy, prudish thing to do. But soon you realize it's just logical to wait until you're in covenant with that person to do something like that. And we wonder why all these issues are going on in the world and broken household. It's like a lot of that would be avoided if we just were sure about the person and were in a covenantal relationship and bond with them before we started doing that stuff and bringing kids into the world. So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think if you're in a similar boat and if you want to hear more commentaries like this. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later.